Hi friends, Lorelei Black here from Blade Broom Botanica. Thanks for joining me today. We're going to talk about the best way to blend incense. This is a way that I was taught by my training high priestess about 20 years ago or more, and I've tried some other ways, and I just have to say that 2 decades of experience and I'm still loving this particular way. There are a lot of ways to adapt it and roll with it and make it work for other situations, but the basic formula that I'm going to share with you is really the best that I have found. So before we get too far into the process, I want to actually show you how to light and use loose incense, because I think that that point alone is sort of a turning away point for a lot of people that are not familiar with loose incense. It's just easier for a lot of folks to go to sticks or cones because they're so easy to find in so many stores and online retailers, and it's just really easy to light up a stick, but you can blend the perfect incense for yourself that's really suited to your needs and to exactly what it is that you want to accomplish, whether that's devotion to a particular deity or a particular spell need or whatever it is that you're working on. If you blend it yourself, if you craft it yourself, and you only need 5 things to go into it, and they might be things that you have in your cupboard, that you already have in your home, so you don't have to go in search of too many things. So especially with people carrying essential oils, just at the local store now, and so many people using essential oils in their daily lives for so many different uses, you may very well have exactly what you need already at home. So first off, let's look at how to light the charcoal and all that kind of stuff, what you need on hand to be able to actually use loose incense for yourself. So I have taken a picture of the supplies that you need to actually light the incense and to use it to actually get it smoldering. So I'm going to put that up, and you'll see that what you need is some kind of receptacle. It does not have to be one of the brass incense holders or burners. It doesn't have, which is normally called a censer or a thurible. It doesn't have to be that kind of device. It can actually be a glass or ceramic dish. Honestly, a clay, like a terracotta pot that you would find for plants could work, or an ashtray, a glass ashtray could work. The important factor here is that you want to use clean sand or clean clay, like cat clay, not anything that has any additives in it, in order to act as an insulation so that that heat doesn't transfer and crack the container, or transfer the heat out to whatever surface you have it sitting on, like your carpet or your table or your altar space or that kind of thing, because you could either get scorch marks or actually start a fire, and that would be bad. And that's true really of sort of anything that you're using for incense. Cones leave that scorch mark, or even the sticks. You'll probably notice that whatever it is that you're putting the sticks in, as it gets closer to the base or it's on the top, it can leave scorch marks. So you really want to make sure that whatever you're using is sort of fire safe and that type of thing, because it can be a problem. So the sand or the clay can really insulate that area. And then you need the charcoal itself. So this is called self-igniting charcoal briquettes, and there are a lot of different makers for it. They all run about the same price. The self-igniting part is really cool, and you're going to see that here in just a second. But what happens is when you light it, they start sparking across the briquette. You don't have to keep holding on to it. You don't want to keep holding on to it because eventually it'll spark your fingers, and that would not be fun. So one of the ways that you can get around that is to actually get a pair of tongs to be able to hold on to it. So you hold on to one end and then light the other. And then once it's taken off on one side, you don't have to keep lighting it. There's no reason to sit there with a flame and just keep lighting the sucker. Just set it down into your insulated thurible or incense holder and let it start going. You don't want to put the incense on it right away because you'll smother it. Just let it start going until it has a little bit of a head on it, and then put your incense on. And then you just need your incense. So whatever it is that you want to put on there. And that's what we're going to get to in just a second. So first I'm going to light one. Oh, and you need some kind of flame. I recommend a lighter. In theory, the kind that has the long handle on it is better, but this is actually the one that I keep on my ancestor altar, and it's special to me. The case belonged to my grandmother, so it's the one that I have handy, and it's the one I'm going to use today. So what you're going to do is and I'm just going to use my fingers because I'm not afraid of the sparks. So you're just going to hold on to one end, and these little guys are about this big. I know sometimes you can't really tell from the picture. So they're about the size of a $50 US. So you're just going to hold on to one side of it and get it in the flame until you start hearing it pop. You hear it? You can kind of see it too. So if you can see there's smoke coming off of it. That means that it's lit. And I can see, you probably can't see, even if I hold it up really close, you wouldn't be able to see that there are little lines starting to zig across the briquette, and I can feel a little bit of heat coming off of it. So I'm going to go ahead and set it down and just let it start to go. Okay, I don't need to do anything else to it for right now. And it's just starting to smoke a little bit, and I'm going to leave it there. So moving on to how to actually make the incense that's going to go onto this briquette here in just a few minutes. So there are 5 components to a really excellent incense, to what I call the best incense. And there's an acronym that we're going to use for it, and it's FLOWR, F-L-O-W-R, no E. So that acronym stands for a flower, that one's easy to remember, flower, leaf, oil, wood, and resin. So those are the 5 things that you need, but those are really kind of broad components. So for the flower, we are talking about usually some kind of blossom, but it could also be blossom-like things. So that could include a fruit or a berry. So what the flower turns into on the plant, something that has that sweetness to it, that juiciness to it. We've got the leaf. And on the leaf, we are talking about again, we're looking at the aerial parts of the plant, but we want the green aerial parts of the plant. So the leaf there's really no getting around that one. It's going to be a leaf, but it can be a tree leaf, it can be a bush leaf, it can be a plant leaf of some kind. So, but we're looking at some kind of leaf. For the oil, you can use a straight essential oil like clary sage or cinnamon or peppermint or whatever. The world is your oyster as far as that's concerned, as long as it aligns with the purpose of your spell or the incense that you're trying to blend, whatever it is that the working is that you're doing. Take your pick of the world of essential oils. Or you can use a blended oil, something that either you've already made or that you've purchased from a reputable seller that you trust. So that might be something like Crown of Success oil or Has No Hannah, or a blessing oil, or a consecration oil, or something along those lines. Something that aligns with the intention for this incense because it's already in alignment with what you're trying to do. I would not recommend bringing in something that has an entirely different intention, just going, oh, this will be a good idea. Let's throw this in here too while we're at it. It should already be in alignment with what you're doing. For the wood, again, you've got options. So this can literally be the bark, either the outer bark, or more likely it's going to be sort of the inner bark or the pithy parts of the inner wood, or it can also be a root. So roots are very common within craft traditions, obviously within root work. Roots are super powerful. It's where really a lot of the powerhouse of that plant is. Roots. Another option for woods are the nuts. Acorns, nuts, and the seed pods are often used for that. So that's another option. So you'll find that the seeds and the seed pods and nuts are treated differently than they sort of fall into that category of wood as opposed to the category of fruits. They have that aspect to them instead of that juicy berry, flower, fruity aspect. So if you're thinking along the lines of, well, I don't really know what I want to use, you can kind of guide yourself in those directions. Especially, I find that it's really helpful to think about what's available at the time of year that I'm working. You know, what do I want a wildcraft to include within my work? So that's the W. So now we're looking at the R, and the R is for resin. So the resin really helps to give that sort of smoky richness to the incense a lot of times, because some of the other parts that we're including different parts burn at different rates and have different sort of textures to them, and the resin can often have sort of a more traditional incense smoke to it, and it also sort of gets into that sap, because that's what it is often, and draws into that lifeblood of the tree or the plant that it has come from, that sort of toughness, but that sweetness that comes from it as well. So we're looking at myrrh, we're looking at copal, we're looking at frankincense, we're looking at amber, along those lines. These are very, very, very common offertory incenses and temple purification incenses and those type of things. These have a long history of use as incenses just on their own. So they are very, very rich and beautiful and will add a nice layer to your incense. I highly recommend all of them, of course, but you're going to really enjoy, if you haven't been using them already as incenses, you're going to enjoy using them. Dragon's blood. They're going to be beautiful. And our charcoal briquette is ready to use now. It has been ready for just a minute or two, a couple minutes. So the incense that I am about to put on is one that is used within my coven for a tutelary spirit that we call upon, and it has all of the traditional ingredients that I just mentioned, and so I'm going to give you a show for how it burns. So you just sprinkle a little bit on if you don't like getting it on your fingers. Oh my gosh. Yeah, love that. And it'll burn for a while. If you don't like getting it on your fingers, I recommend using a measuring spoon. I would have a set that you use just for your blending. And to that end, I would say always have a set. If you're going to do this kind of thing, I would have a set of measuring tools, a mixing bowl, that type of thing, a mortar and pestle. There are tools that you should have that would be just for this work, or that you should be prepared to clean out very, very thoroughly, because the essential oils especially will stick and get in things and be hard to clean out. But you can also get nice little containers where you can see and then label the tops. An electric coffee grinder is a great thing for getting resins ground down to fine powders, and the same thing for woods and roots. But again, don't ever use it for actual coffee after that, because you'll cross-contaminate. You just will. There's no way to fully get certain resins and that type of thing back out of your coffee grinder after you've used it for that purpose, and you don't want to inadvertently make yourself sick. So I gathered things together today to actually show you what you would need to make, for instance, the prophecy incense that it's included in the complete herbal grimoire my shop puts out. You can get that in PDF digital format or in hardbound. And for that you would need mugwort, Dittany of Crete, lemongrass, and bay laurel leaves. So in that case, you'll see we actually have 5 different leaves. So on the L, we've got 5 of them. So you don't have to have just one of something. You can have 5 of one thing. And then for the wood, we have cedar chips. So just one wood. For the flower, we've got honeysuckle flowers. And for the resin, we're using copal resin. And then for the oil, we're actually using clary sage. And then all of those they were all chosen because they all have associations with prophecy, with divination, with opening up the psychic centers, with sight. They all have a long history of association with that. So, and the recipe is actually made for a decent sized quantity. So if you want to scale it down, you can. If you want to scale it up, you can. That type of thing. So anyway, I hope that you have gotten a lot of good information out of this. I hope that you find this type of formula useful. There's a lot of room for creativity with it. Again, you can use more than one of something. Just use at least one of something. You know, have a little bit of it in the recipe just to make it well blended. It uses every part of a plant's essence. So you're pulling everything into your incense, and it reaches out better. It helps you connect better. And I just find it heady. So yeah, have fun with it. Tell me how it works for you. Leave comments, subscribe to the channel, check out the links. I've got good ones for you on this one. Getting into herbal stuff is one of my jams, so check them out. And I will see you next time. New episodes every Monday, 12 p.m. Eastern. Bye, guys.